My father's name is Richard Hale, Navy machinist, caretaker of stuck zippers and neighbors' lawnmowers. He labeled folders with a carpenter's patience. Survivor benefits sat in a blue binder in the bottom drawer. He showed it to me twice, not to scare me, to steady me. He died on a Tuesday. Rain, then late sun. We folded the flag. We rinsed the coffee pot. We wrapped his suits in dry cleaner plastic. Someone said, "It's just clothes." I nodded because my mother's face was paper. The phrase landed and kept landing. It built a small pile inside me. 48, oldest daughter, married, 2 kids mostly out of the house. I keep lists in a wire basket. October property taxes, mom's cardiology follow-up, VA letter, original. That basket sits under a corkboard. The corkboard holds one brass thumbtack that used to hold the word later. At 5:12 a.m. on a Monday, my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I woke to the second buzz. Banking alert. External transfer. Amount too many digits for Dawn. The room hummed with the refrigerator. The dog lifted his head, then slept again. I did what I always do when something hits hard. I put my bare feet flat on the floor. I counted to 5. I turned on the light. The message said $92,400 outbound. From Survivor Savings, routing to a bank I did not recognize. Timestamp 05/11/38. I stared at the colon between the minutes and seconds. The colon looked like eyes. I called my mother first. The ring went long. She answered on the 4th. "Mom, good morning. I got an alert." "I'm up," she said. "Gordon's making coffee." Gordon is my stepfather. He came into our house with citronella candles and backyard jokes. He took my father's chair with polite hesitation the first time, then with none the 5th. People adjust. Furniture remembers. "Did you move money?" I asked. She paused. "What money?" A voice in the background. "Gordon. Put it on speaker, Lynn." "Survivor funds," I said. "Came through at 5:11? It's gone." Silence. Then Gordon. "We're consolidating." He said, "It's safer. New CDs, better rate." "It's Dad's Survivor Savings," I said. "It's for Mom, and for what he wrote. You know that? We're family," he said. "Family money is family money." On the wall, the clock ticked like a small hammer. I kept my voice even. "Reverse it." He exhaled through his nose. "Settle down. It's just money. It's just..." "Don't say it," I said. I didn't raise my voice. "I'll call the bank. We'll meet at noon. Bring Mom." He started to speak. My mother said soft, "We'll be there." Then the line clicked. The call ended with the faint sound of a stainless steel spoon against a mug. I pulled the blue binder from the bottom drawer. The cardboard edges were soft, thumbed. Inside, tabs. DFAS, VA award letter, beneficiary designation, funeral receipts rubber banded with a pen cap. The pen cap had tooth marks. Mine. I don't remember chewing it. Grief turns your hands into someone else's. I scanned the letters with the phone app Dad taught me to use. Light, center, tap, crop. I saved them to a folder named After. I wrote on a yellow sticky, hold transfer, preserve footage 04300600, get receipt NARS. I stuck it on the front. I called the bank. A recorded voice thanked me and offered Spanish. I took English. A human answered. He sounded 22 and tired. "My name is Anna," I said. "I'm calling about a suspicious transfer from a Survivor account at 5:11 a.m. I need a hold. I need your fraud team. I need you to preserve camera footage from your branch and any ATM that read this card between 4:30 and 6:09 a.m. today. I'm writing down your name." The young man cleared his throat. "Ryan," he said. "One moment." Hold music. A piano riff that never landed. I waited with my feet flat. A choice about how to stand is still a choice. Ryan returned. "We've put a temporary hold," he said. "I can give you a case number." "Say it slowly," I said. He read. I repeated. I wrote. I asked for his last initial, the time and the spelling. I asked for a second note in the case file. Preserve CCTV with the specific time window. He read it back. The words changed shape when he said them. They turned from hope into record. I hung up. Then I emailed the account manager at the branch. I attached the VA letter in the beneficiary page. I typed, "Temporary hold placed. Will arrive at noon with documentation. Please confirm the conference room that can accommodate 4 family members and 2 guests. Please instruct staff to retain teller logs and ATM footage for the time window noted." I clicked send. The computer fan whirred. Out the window, dawn turned from slate to light smoke. The dog's nails clicked the floor. He wanted out. I opened the back door. Cool air moved across tile. The neighbor's wind chimes made a quiet, metallic question. I called the base legal office. I left a message for the JAG duty line. I spoke cleanly into the recording. Survivor funds transferred at 0511. POA expired upon death. Potential misuse by step-parent. Meeting at bank today at 12 Wary. Request guidance on documentation and presence for evidence preservation. I left my number twice. I spelled my last name once. My sister Maggie texted at 6:02. She wakes with birds. What's going on? I typed, "He moved Dad's survivor funds. We're meeting at noon. Please come." Maggie replied with a single word. "Here." My brother Ben chimed in at 6:15. He sleeps like a rock until he doesn't. "Are you sure?" A fair question. Fairness is a habit you practice when it's cheap, so it's still there when it's expensive. I sent the screenshot of the alert. I didn't add commentary. He replied with 3 dots. Then, "Okay." At 7:40, the JAG office called back. The caller identified himself. Captain Doyle. Calm voice. Proportional. He asked for the details again. I gave them. "Bring everything," he said. "Originals if you have them. Scans if you don't. Ask the branch to hold the funds pending clarification. We'll attend if possible. If we can't, military police will accompany to ensure chain of custody for footage and logs. Do not argue law in the room. Just ask for preservation and records. We'll speak if we need to." "Thank you," I said. He paused. "I'm sorry for your loss, Ms. Hale." When people say that with their full voice, I believe them. He added, "Your father prepared well." "He did," I said. I looked at the blue binder. The tab labeled Instructions had Dad's careful block print. "If you are reading this, something has gone wrong, but not beyond fixing." I showered. I put on the navy dress I wore to the service. It fit the same and not the same. The fabric had a memory. I pinned my hair back like I do when I need my face to stay open. I set the binder in a canvas tote with a notebook and the cheap black pen that leaves a bit of ink on my finger. I wiped it off and left a smear on a paper towel. I threw the towel away. It felt ceremonial. At 10:15, I drove to my mother's. The lawn was cut. Gordon's truck sat at an angle that looked casual and wasn't. My mother came out in a gray sweater. She pulled the door too hard. She let it close and tried again. We hugged. Her shoulder blades felt like folded wings. She smelled like coffee and dryer sheets. In the kitchen, the blue folder I made for her sat on the table. Not the binder. A copy. I had written survivor benefits on the front. My handwriting is not my father's. It does the job. Gordon stood by the sink. He wore a polo with a golf club logo. He did not look at the binder. He looked at the clock. He said, to the air, "Banker said noon." "We'll be on time," I said. He picked up his keys. He looked at me. "You're making this ugly," he said. "It was ugly at 5:11, I said. He raised an eyebrow. "You think the government is going to swoop in on a family matter?" "Today is about preservation," I said. "What happens after that?" "Happens after that." He shook his head. "It's just, don't," I said again. He let the word die in the corner of his mouth. We rode in separate cars. A small kindness. The bank sat in a brick building with a flag out front and a rose bush that tried hard. The September air held a little heat, and a lot of dust. Inside, the lighting was flat. A ribbon of black pens on chains lay beside a dish of peppermints. Someone had rearranged the chairs. Bank furniture moves like chess pieces you don't see until your king is in check. The branch manager's name was Ms. Patel. She was steady and brisk, like a nurse who knows where the good bandages are. She led us to a conference room with glass walls and a wood table that had a scar the length of a ruler. She placed water bottles at each seat. She set a printed agenda in the center. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We will review the account activity, confirm authority, and, if appropriate, reverse the transfer pending documentation." She looked at me. "We've preserved the specified time window. This is the case number." She slid a copy to me. The paper felt warm, like it had just been born. My sister arrived with a folder and a calm face she uses at work. She works in a lab. She trusts process. My brother entered a minute later. He tipped his chin to Mom. He nodded to me. He sat. He said nothing. Sometimes silence is love you can carry. Gordon took the far chair. He set his phone face down. He smiled at Ms. Patel like a man who bought a car last week and wants you to know it was a good deal. The door opened. 2 military police stepped in. Uniforms pressed, boots quiet. Behind them, a man in service khakis, captain's bars. He looked like he had slept, and also like he didn't need to. He introduced himself to Ms. Patel first, then to us. "I'm Captain Doyle," he said. "We are here to observe, to ensure the integrity of records related to a transfer flagged by the beneficiary family." Ms. Patel inclined her head. "Understood. We appreciate clear process." Gordon exhaled a laugh that didn't have a place to sit. "Isn't this a bit dramatic?" Captain Doyle met his eyes. "Financial exploitation of survivor benefits can carry consequences," he said. "Clarity reduces drama." He did not raise his voice. The room got quieter anyway. The air conditioner whispered into the ceiling vent. Ms. Patel pulled up a screen. The monitor showed a ledger with timestamps and amounts. She pointed with a capped pen. "Transfer at 05-11-38, initiated by online banking credentials associated with this account." She circled an IP address with her pen. "Source IP traces to a residential service." Gordon's jaw slid to one side. "That could be any of us," he said. "It can be traced," Ms. Patel said. "We have initiated that process." I opened the binder. I set the VA letter on the table. I placed the beneficiary designation next to it. I set the copy of the POA on top, then moved it aside. "This expired when my father passed," I said quietly. "He signed it for medical appointments, not posthumous financial control." My mother pressed her fingers to her mouth. She stared at the paper. Her wedding band touched her lip. My father's band sat on a chain at her neck. It clicked against her skin when she breathed. Gordon leaned back. He spoke to Ms. Patel as if we were his audience and she was his judge. "I moved funds to secure them," he said, "to keep them from being pecked at. Consolidation is prudent." He used the word prudent like a tool. "We can discuss prudent," I said. "We're here about permission." He opened his palms. "We're family," he said again. "Your mother and I share a household." I shook my head once. "Survivor funds aren't a group project." I kept my voice level. I let the sentence be simple. Captain Doyle cleared his throat. "The question is authority," he said. "Not sentiment. The beneficiary letter identifies your mother. It does not create ownership rights for anyone else. The POA expired. If you have another instrument, produce it." Oh, Gordon's face brightened with a kind of triumph. He reached into a leather portfolio. He pulled out a document with a notary seal. He set it on the table with 2 fingers. "Durable power of attorney," he said, "executed after the surgery." I read the heading. I read the date. I read the line that mattered. "Effective upon incapacity," I said. "Revocable at will. Expires upon death." "It was never revoked," he said. My sister spoke for the first time. "It doesn't matter," she said softly. She slid the page back toward him. "It's over when he's gone." Gordon looked at my mother. "Lynn, tell them," he said. "We talked about this." My mother stared at the table. She placed a folded handkerchief beside the water bottle. It was white with a navy border. It had been my father's. She smoothed it once. She whispered, "I thought it was for bills." "It is for bills," Gordon said quickly. "House bills. You don't want to be alone with all that." "I'm not alone," my mother said. Her voice carried a metal thread I hadn't heard since the year Maggie broke her arm and the ER forgot us for an hour. "I have my children." I felt something in my chest unclench and sit down. Ms. Patel clicked. The printer outside the glass wall started up. The sound was a slow grind, then a spit of paper. She stood and retrieved a page. "I've initiated a reversal pending final confirmation," she said. "We'll retain the hold until we document authority properly. This is a receipt of the action." She slid copies to each of us. Gordon made a small noise. "You can't," he began. "We can," Ms. Patel said. "We will." She nodded toward Captain Doyle. "And we have observers." The military police officer nearest the door spoke for the first time. "We'll take custody of copies of the relevant footage and logs today," she said. Her voice had South in it. "Chain of custody starts here. You'll sign." Outside the room, a teller laughed at something. The laughter hit the glass, turned thin, and slid down. The air smelled faintly of toner and peppermint. My brother touched his thumb to the corner of the receipt. A small habit. He used to test the edges of his baseball cards the same way. Gordon tried a new path. "We needed a deposit," he said. "There were funeral costs you children didn't cover." He spoke the word children with an edge. When men use that word for adults, they're counting on gravity to fall their way. "We covered the invoice," I said. I placed the paid receipt on the table. The paper had a slight roughness where the embossing lived. "Every line item. You signed the acknowledgement." He let his body go loose, a performance of exasperation. "So this is about controlling your mother," he said. "This is about you, Anna. It's always been." My name in his mouth made the blue binder feel heavier. I kept my breath even. "This is about respecting a line a dead man drew when he was alive," I said. He drew it in block letters. He showed all of us. Captain Doyle turned a page on a small legal pad. He used a pencil. He wrote with neat strokes. He said, "I will say this clearly for the record. Survivor benefits are not discretionary funds for affiliates. They belong to the beneficiary for the purposes articulated by the issuing agency. Any attempt to divert them without proper authority can invite inquiry. That's all for now." Gordon's eyes flicked to the glass wall. Several customers sat in plastic chairs, waiting. Bank waiting has its own smell. Paper, plastic, cold air, a hint of mint from someone's gum. The chain on the pen bumped the glass and made a small metallic chime when a teller returned it. The sound moved through me like a Morse code I almost recognized. I looked at the blue binder. The tab that said instructions tugged at me. I opened it to the page my father wrote. His letters were steady. "If anyone says it is just clothes, they are not looking at the person who wore them. Keep what keeps you warm." The sentence stood by itself in the margin. He had underlined the word warm twice, not hard. Maggie saw it too. She breathed out a laugh that didn't unkindly cut. "He knew us," she said. Gordon smirked. "We're here about money," he said, "not jackets." I closed the binder. "We're here about respect," I said. "Money is a loud messenger." Ms. Patel tapped the keyboard. On the monitor, a status bar inched right. "Reversal pending," it said. Small blue letters. "Waiting can be a tool if you don't let it be a weapon." The MP officer stepped nearer to the door. We'll move to retrieve the footage now, she said to Ms. Patel. We'll need your technician. Of course, Ms. Patel said. She stood. 10 minutes, she said to us. Then we'll finalize today's steps. We stayed seated. The room hummed. Gordon tapped one finger on the table. He stopped when my mother looked at his hand. You can't keep me out, he said, not angry now, just flat. We're married. No one is keeping you out, I said. We're asking you to step back from what isn't yours to steer. He looked at my mother again. Lynn. My mother unfolded the handkerchief. She pressed it between her palms. She said, when he came home from deployment, your father hung his uniform in the hall closet. He told me not to iron it. He said creases were earned. I tried to call Goodwill once. She swallowed. Anna stopped me. She said, not yet. I told her, it's just clothes. She said, no. She folded the handkerchief again. I think she was right. Gordon shifted in his chair. We're talking about enough, she said. The metal thread in her voice held. Captain Doyle looked up from his pad. He said, almost conversational, Tin yu kua ban ja juoch han. His Vietnamese was careful. He looked at me. That phrase was on your voicemail. I had it translated. I blinked. It means the signal you sent was received, I said. He nodded. It is. I felt the room change temperature, or I just noticed it. The vent air was cool. The bottle of water left a ring on the table. The ink on the receipt smudged my thumb. Proof lives in small stains. Ms. Patel returned with a technician in a polo shirt with the bank's logo. He carried a hard drive in an anti-static bag. His face was pale with effort. Exporting was slow, he said. We have everything from 4:30 to 6. Thank you, Captain Doyle said. He stood. The military police officer stepped forward with a chain of custody form. We'll sign, he said. He looked at me. You'll get a reference copy. Ms. Patel slid a smaller envelope toward me. And this is your copy of the internal logs. Redacted for account numbers, but complete for timestamps. I took it. The envelope rasped against the wood. The glue didn't fully dry at one edge. Something about that made me want to cry. I didn't. Gordon drummed his fingers again. Stopped. Started. Stopped. So that's it, he said. You bring in uniforms, you make a scene, and we pretend the family can't make decisions without a parade. No parade? I said. A table and a pen? Enough. He leaned toward me. What do you want? He asked. Say it. What do you want exactly? I held his eyes. A boundary that lives outside my mouth, I said. In writing. In process. In the record. I want my mother's account to be hers. I want you to ask before you touch what you did not earn. I want you to hear the word no and let it stay a word. That's what I want. He sat back. He looked at the glass wall like it could answer. Ms. Patel cleared her throat. The reversal processed, she said. Funds will post back pending final verification. The hold remains. My brother finally spoke. Good, he said. He had my father's voice when he kept it low. He looked at Gordon. You don't get to be sloppy with our mother's safety, he said. Not here. Gordon's mouth tightened. Our, he said. He tried the word on like a jacket he didn't want to pay for. The MP officer slid the signed form into a folder. We're done here for now, she said. We'll be available if further documentation is needed. Captain Doyle gathered his pad. He nodded to Ms. Patel and to us. He paused with his hand on the door. We don't need to adjudicate the past, he said. We just need to mark the line forward. He opened the door. The bank noise came in. The chain on the pen bumped the glass again. Morse code. I heard it this time. It said, small and clear, wait, hold, now. We stepped out into the lobby. The carpet flattened under our feet. Sun fell through the glass and made squares on the floor. The door chimed when a customer left. The smell of toner diluted into the hallway. In the parking lot, the air held heat. A delivery truck idled. A flag clicked against a metal pole. My mother stood beside me. She touched my arm. "Lunch?" she asked. "Simple. A bridge." "Lunch," I said. Behind us, Gordon spoke into his phone, too loud. He used words like consult and advise and rights. Words he believed had handles he could grip. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. We ate at the diner with the blue stools. The waitress called everyone Han. The menu was laminated and sticky at the corners. My mother ordered soup and didn't eat it. My sister took notes like she always does. My brother texted someone and then put the phone face down. We sat quiet. Families can be quiet without being broken. After, we drove back to the bank for the final paperwork. The conference room felt cooler. The bottles of water had been replaced. A new agenda lay on the table. Ms. Patel had added a line, "Beneficiary boundary letter, optional." I had written something the previous night, before the alert, without knowing I would need it. A template. I opened my notebook. I read what I had written in a different temperature of mind. "Family boundary letter," I said. "Not legal, not binding. Just words we agree to say the same way." Gordon snorted. "Cute." I ignored him. I looked at my mother. I read, "We acknowledge that survivor funds belong to Lynn Hale, beneficiary. We agree that any transfer over $500 will be preceded by an email to Anna, Maggie, and Ben, with Lynn copied. We agree that Gordon will not be a signatory on this account. We agree that any household expenses will be discussed monthly at Lynn's kitchen table, first Saturday, 10 a.m., with coffee." My mother smiled at the last line. She said, "I can do coffee." Her voice held more air. Maggie added a sentence about emergencies. Ben added a sentence about respectful tone. We kept it human. We kept it printable. We kept it short. Ms. Patel returned. She brought a form to add my sister and me as view only on the online account. "Transparency makes families quieter," she said. Gordon laughed once without humor. "You want to run your mother's life?" "No," I said. "We want Mom to run her life with the light on." I slid the letter toward him. "Sign if you agree. Don't if you don't. But hear it." He stared at it. He didn't touch the pen. The chain whispered when it moved in a small circle. The MP officer knocked and stepped in. "One more thing," she said. She placed a small envelope on the table. "Still captures from the footage, for your records." She looked at Ms. Patel. "We have the originals." I slid the envelope open. Black and white thumbnails. A man at an ATM in a ball cap. The timestamp, 5:07:12. A license plate, partial but legible. A dashboard reflection of a phone screen with a blue-white glow. My mother looked at the photos. She exhaled. Not a sob. Not a word. Just breath coming back. Gordon's eyes narrowed. "You've got your show," he said. "Happy?" "No," I said, "not happy, steady." He pushed back from the table. The chair legs squeaked. He stood. He looked at my mother. "Let's go," he said. She shook her head. She took the pen. She signed the boundary letter. Her handwriting leaned right, consistent, confident enough. She handed the pen to me. I signed, then Maggie, then Ben. Gordon stared at the paper. He didn't take the pen. He lifted his chin. "This is beneath me," he said. I nodded once. "Then step over it and out," I said. "The line is the line." He left without signing. The door closed behind him. The sound was soft, the kind of soft that lasts. Ms. Patel collected the forms. "We'll finalize," she said. "Give us an hour." I looked at the clock on the wall. Noon had stretched. It was past 2. Time had been a different size inside that room. We stepped into the hall. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The chain on the pin didn't move. The teller smiled at a woman in a yellow sweater. The smell of paper and toner had faded into something cleaner. Outside, the sun had tilted, shadows lengthened. We walked to the cars slowly. My mother held the small envelope of stills. She didn't look at them again. She didn't need to. She had the shape of them in her hand. "Come over tonight," she said. "I made stew yesterday." "We will," I said. At the curb, a gust lifted the edge of my dress. The fabric brushed my knee. I thought of Dad's clothes, the ones we hadn't yet sorted, the jacket with the name tape, the shirts with the stubborn starch, the boots that knew the shape of his walk. "Just clothes," my mother said, almost to herself. "Not just," I said. "Not just," she agreed. We stood there a moment. A car door slammed in the distance. A child laughed somewhere I couldn't see. The flag clacked against the pole again. The sound was small and certain. Back home, I set the binder on my kitchen table. I opened the back door for the dog. Light came in. It fell across the blue cover. The word survivor shone a little. Maybe it was the angle. Maybe it was nothing. I don't need it to be everything. I need it to be enough. I poured water. I sat. I took the envelope of stills back out. I laid them in a line. I wrote the times under each with a pencil. 5:07:12, 05:09:44, 05:11:38. The graphite left a gray shine. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Captain Doyle. Funds reversal confirmed. Process continues. Tin Hyokua Ban Jan Juochnhan." I typed back. "Thank you." I didn't add anything. Some words end better when they end there. The next hour passed quiet. The house settled. A squirrel did whatever squirrels do on fences. The dog fell asleep with his nose on my shoe. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. I breathed in and out and felt my ribs do their job. At 3:15, my brother texted a photo, our father's jacket, laid across the back of a chair, the name tape visible. Wardrobe, Richard Hale. It said in a dry cleaner's typed tag that had been stapled on once and then again. He wrote, "I'll bring this tonight." I wrote back, "Keep it for now." He sent back a single thumbs up. Our family speaks in small icons when we're done with large ones. At 3:40, Ms. Patel called. "We're set on our side," she said. "I've sent confirmations. We'll require no further action today." "Thank you," I said. She paused. "You were clear," she said. "That made this easier." Then she hung up, because some gratitude doesn't need a mirror. I put the phone down. I stood. I looked at the basket under the corkboard. I pulled out the brass thumbtack. I pinned a new card. It said, "Saturday, 10 a.m. coffee at Mom's." I pressed the tack into cork until it bit. The word later had a place again. The dog lifted his head. I said, "Walk?" He didn't know anything about survivor funds. He knew the sound of that word. He stood at the door, expectant. He thumped his tail against the frame. Tap, tap, tap. A code I already knew. We walked past the houses with their lawns and their mailboxes with flags like little arms. The late sun made the street's imperfections honest. Cracks, oil stains, a lost hair tie, a child's chalk line half washed away. The neighborhood performed normal. So did we. When we turned back toward home, I saw my reflection in my front window. I looked like my mother. I looked like myself. My father's eyes are in me when I concentrate. People tell me that. Sometimes I like it. Today, I needed it. Inside, the answering machine light blinked. I pressed the button. A robotic voice said, "Message 1." Then Maggie. "Soup for tonight," she said, "and cornbread." Click. Message 2. Then my mother. "Leaving now," she said. "See you in 20. Click. Message 3. A pause, then Gordon. "We'll talk later," he said. "When you're calmer. This grandstanding..." The beep cut him off. The machine said, "End of messages." I didn't delete anything. Records aren't vengeance, they're just records. They keep us from arguing with air. I set the table. 4 plates, the cheap ones from the set we've had since the kids were small. 4 forks, napkins folded once, not twice. The habit of saving paper can live beside the habit of offering it. The doorbell rang. The dog sang his terrible, joyful song. I opened the door. My mother stood there with the soup, Maggie with a foil pan, Ben with the jacket in a garment bag that used to hold something lighter. We ate. We talked about small things. We did not touch the larger thing like a bruise we all knew was there. After, we washed dishes. My mother dried the bowls with a towel that had lost its pattern. Maggie wiped the counter in straight lines. Ben took the trash out and came back with the smell of cut grass on him. When they left, the house tilted back to quiet. I put the jacket across the couch. I sat beside it. I laid my hand on the sleeve. The fabric was smooth under my palm. The patches were stiffer. The name tape had a seam at one end where the thread doubled back. My father did that sometimes. He said, "Ends should know where they are." The phone buzzed once more. A text from a number I didn't have saved. "This is the bank's security team," it said. "Confirmation, funds reversed, hold in place, contact if further activity occurs." I typed, "Received." Then, because it mattered to me, signal received. I turned off the kitchen light. I left the binder on the table. I left the jacket on the couch. I stood at the window and watched the street settle. Porch lights blinked on. A neighbor carried in groceries. Somewhere, a TV laughed. It was only a day. It was a line. Lines can be small and still be lines. We had one now. On paper. In a room. In our mouths the same way. Tomorrow would bring new talks. Maybe apologies, maybe performances of regret. Maybe more paperwork. I didn't need to pre-live it. I needed to sleep. I walked down the hall. I brushed my teeth. I set my alarm. I turned off the lamp. The dark had a shape I recognized. The house breathed. The dog settled at my feet. The jacket lay where it lay. I said to the quiet, "We'll keep what keeps us warm." The quiet said nothing back. It didn't have to. Morning returned like it always does. First the thin gray, then the usable light. I woke to the jacket on the couch and the blue binder on the table. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic. Just the steady fact of objects waiting where we left them. I made coffee. I wrote 3 lines on a card. Funds reversed. Hold in place. Saturday 10 a.m. Coffee at Mom's. The card looked too small for what it carried. I pinned it under the brass thumbtack anyway. Small can be strong. At 9, I drove to my mother's with muffins that tasted better than they deserved to. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and old paper. She was already dressed. The sweater from yesterday. A softer face. We didn't say yesterday the way people name storms. We just moved around each other. Easy. I rinsed fruit. She set plates. We ate standing up. Morning sunlight went golden across the counter. It found scratches and made them honest. Her phone vibrated. She looked down. "Unknown number," she said. She answered. "This is Lynn." She listened. "Yes." Another pause. "Okay, thank you." She set the phone on the table with the care you use for a sleeping child. "Probate clerk," she said. "Status conference on Friday, 10 a.m. I nodded. I felt the word status settle like a spoon in a drawer. Not a fight. Not a verdict. A check-in. I could do a check-in. We walked through her mail. I made a neat stack for decide later. I slid 2 envelopes into call now. My mother pulled the handkerchief from her sweater pocket and set it beside her mug. "He used to fold these like origami," she said, half laughing. "Sailboats?" I smiled. I folded it once. Not a sailboat. Just a square. "Keep what keeps you warm," I said. She nodded. She knew the line now. It had moved from paper into her mouth. The doorbell rang. Gordon didn't ring. He walked in like people who pay mortgages think wood is air. He stopped when he saw the binder on the table. He looked rested. He looked sure. "We're not doing this," he said. He kept his voice calm and managerial. "You called soldiers. Fine. You made your point. Fine. We'll keep some money where it was, but I'll manage the rest." My mother didn't stand. She stayed seated, steady, like a tree that learned wind a long time ago. "No," she said. He blinked. "Excuse me?" "No," she said again. She didn't add anything. Some words should stand alone. He took a step. He didn't touch the binder. He touched the back of a chair instead, fingers flat. "Lynn, we run a household," he said. "We don't crowdsource the electric bill." "I pay bills," she said. "I always have. It got quiet because he was sick. It isn't quiet now." She picked up the pen from last night and clicked it once. The sound was small and absolute. "You're letting them turn you against me," he said. I lifted my mug. "We turned toward a line," I said. "It was already there." He turned to me. "You love a scene," he said. "Yesterday was a scene." "Yesterday was a receipt," I said. He stared at me. Then he stared at the window. Then he looked back at my mother. "I'll be at the hearing," he said. "It's a status conference," I said. "Not a hearing." He smirked. "You'll learn the words," he said, and left, letting the screen door do the punctuation he wanted. We watched his truck angle down the street. I didn't talk about the conference. I didn't talk about anything big. I took the mugs to the sink. The water ran. Sun made the drops look like metal. Friday came clean and white. We met at the courthouse with Maggie's quiet, Ben's shoulders, and my binder. My mother wore the navy dress again. It looked like itself. She looked like herself. A guard at the door asked us to empty our pockets. The tray held keys, a lip balm, a paperclip, and the hard edge of a pencil. We moved through a metal detector that beeped for someone behind us. Not for us. The hallway smelled like floor polish and old thinking. We found the room. Not a courtroom. A conference room with a long table and windows that didn't open. A court officer sat at the end with a clock behind her and a stack of files that leaned like a city skyline. People came in with their own griefs tucked into folders. I don't narrate their stories. I acknowledge the weight when I see someone shift. Our case was called. We took seats where we were told. The clerk, gray sweater, hair in a practical bun, read from a sheet. She asked for names. We gave them. She asked for the decedent's date. We gave it. The word decedent landed like a polite cough. She looked over the tops of her glasses. "Any disputes today?" she asked. Not sarcastic. Just a checkbox. I glanced at Gordon. He sat 2 chairs down with a legal pad he bought for the sound of pages. He opened his mouth. He closed it. He shook his head. No. The surprise didn't show on my face. It might have on my pulse. I kept my feet flat. The clerk checked a box, literal, with a blue pen. She set a date for the next thing. She asked whether the estate needed a neutral party for one small item. I said yes, because we had all agreed last night. She nodded. She gave us a name. She slid a paper across the table. The paper was warm from the copier. The smell of toner rode the air. It layered over the smell of polish. Courts smell like permanence that was bought wholesale. We stood. We thanked her. She nodded again, not unkind. "You've done your homework," she said without looking at anyone in particular. We left the room the way you leave a doctor's appointment where the news is boring. Boring can be a miracle. In the hallway, Gordon caught my mother's arm. Not hard, not soft. "Let's talk alone," he said. She glanced at me, then at him. "Saturday," she said, at the table. She said it like a weather report. He let go. He nodded, polite and stiff. He walked away under the fluorescent lights. They hummed. Everything hummed in that building. There is machinery behind most quiet. We ate lunch at a deli that wrapped sandwiches in paper that squeaked. We chewed and didn't talk much. We didn't need to narrate a status conference. We let mayonnaise be the loudest thing in the room. After, back at my mother's, we sat at the kitchen table that is held more ordinary than most altars. I opened my notebook. I read the boundary letter again, out loud, not for Gordon this time, but for us. We added one line. Family text thread is for logistics, not for blame. My mother smiled at that. If we can keep it to soup and start times, I can breathe, she said. Ben grinned. I'll add a weather report, he said, for flair. We laughed. We meant it. Saturday arrived with that bright sky that lies about heat. We put coffee in 2 pots because we have learned. My mother arranged a plate of donuts like a wreath. The doorbell rang at 9:59. Gordon stood there with a careful face. He wore a shirt with buttons like he remembered the performance of Respect, even if he wasn't feeling the feeling. He sat. He didn't reach for coffee. He placed both hands on the table like a man asking for a clear road. He said, I'm not signing any more papers. No more papers, I said. Just a calendar. He looked suspicious, then relieved. He nodded. We did dates. We put first Saturday in ink. He didn't fight it. A schedule looks like safety, even when it's just time with lines around it. We reviewed basic things. Mail forwarding, a leaky faucet, the appointment with the garden crew to take out a dead camellia. My father liked that bush. He also liked not letting rot spread. I could hold both. Then my mother stood and went to the hall closet. She came back with a hanger, the uniform jacket. She laid it across the backs of 2 chairs. The room thinned in sound. Even the fridge took a pause. Gordon looked at it and tried a smile. It's just, he began. My mother shook her head. Stop right there, she said. No heat, just a clean edge. Not just anything. He closed his mouth. His breathing changed. We watched the jacket without worship. The fabric wasn't a relic. It was a record. It said in thread and crease, a series of choices made over years. I touched the name tape with 1 finger. It didn't need my finger. I needed to be someone who touches cloth carefully. Keep what keeps you warm, I said. My mother nodded. She lifted the hanger. She moved the jacket to the hallway again. She didn't close the closet door all the way. You could see a sliver of navy from the kitchen chair. The sliver was enough. After coffee, Gordon stood. I still think you overreacted, he said. Not an apology, not an attack, just a sentence he could live inside. I still think we reacted, I said. Right-sized. He looked at my mother. I'll come by Monday, he said. We can go over the electric. Email me first, she said. She tapped the magnet that held a copy of the boundary letter on the fridge. The list says email. He read the magnet. He nodded and left. The door clicked. The click sounded regular. Regular has a sound. It isn't dramatic. It's relief. We cleaned up. We washed the mugs, we dried them, we nested them in the cabinet. We didn't talk about the jacket. We didn't have to. Some objects do their own speaking when the room is quiet. Weeks went by. Not a montage, just days. I answered emails. I went to work. I picked up a bottle of window cleaner that promised streaklessness and delivered most of that. My mother called me to say the camellia was gone and the light looked different. My sister texted photographs of labels she wanted to read later. My brother fixed a rattling grate. Once, Gordon sent a long text in the family thread at midnight. It had capital letters and exclamation points like flare guns. I typed, "Logistics only here. We can talk in the morning." Then I put the phone face down and slept like a person with a roof. On a Tuesday, Ms. Patel called to confirm that the bank had completed some internal review with big words I didn't need to repeat. She said, "Everything aligns." I said, "Thank you." She said, "No, thank you." I realized both of us meant it. On a Thursday, the MP officer emailed a final note. The subject line was, "Custody chain closed." The body said, "Records retained, no further action from our end. Take care." No signature flourish, just a sign-off that felt like a hand to the shoulder in a hallway where the air is cooler than outside. On a Sunday, we went to church because it was time. The hymns felt ragged. The announcements were fully alive. Someone carried a casserole to a table, and the foil made that silver crackle. After the service, an old friend of my father's took my hand in both of his. His palms were dry and strong. He said nothing profound. He liked to fix what didn't need fixing, he said, smiling. I laughed and felt something lift. Back at my mother's, we faced the closet. We took out shirts and folded them. The cotton felt tired in the right way. We made 3 stacks. Keep, share, bless someone we'll never meet. We left the jacket hanging. My mother pressed her cheek to the shoulder for a breath. Then she stepped back. We closed the door to a line you could still see down the middle, a sliver of navy where wood didn't quite touch wood. At our next Saturday coffee, Ben read aloud from the calendar like a town crier. He did a voice. We laughed. Maggie put a basket on the table, labeled receipts in marker. So we don't argue with air, she said. My mother added a small vase with a single fern. Green makes meetings kinder. We decided this is true, even if it is also unproven. Once, Gordon tried to move the meeting to a weekday because it fit his golf. My mother shook her head. Saturday, she said, 10. He looked like he might lift the word and carry it out of the room, then realized words weigh what we agree they weigh. He sat. We didn't convert him. This isn't that story. He adjusted his shape around the furniture that wasn't moving. That was plenty. The last envelope from the VA arrived on a windy afternoon. The letter inside had the bland exactness of government writing. It confirmed what we already knew. Designation stands, disbursements continue, keep your address updated. I smoothed the page with the side of my hand. I filed it behind the tab. The binder had gained new scuffs and a kind of shine where fingers traveled. It looked used the way a good skillet looks used. Held, helpful, ready. At home that night, I turned off my phone and sat with the dog. The house sounded like refrigerators and street tires and someone's dryer 2 houses over. I didn't romanticize it. I didn't diminish it. I listened. I thought of the phrase that had threaded through all of it like a radio signal you can catch from a porch. Tin hiu kwa ban jan juo chen han. Not rescue, not fanfare, just receipt. We spoke. They heard. We wrote. It counted. We stood. It held. You want me to tell you that everything turned gentle and stayed there? I won't. Life doesn't owe us a flat C. But this I can say without leaning into hope too hard. The line we marked stayed where we left it, even when people bumped it. We painted it again when it faded. That was work, yes. It was also a kind of quiet celebration. We stayed grown. I keep the jacket in a cotton garment bag now, not plastic. Fabric breathes better. I learned that from a woman at the dry cleaner who had steadier hands than mine. I took it to a tailor to restitch the loose end of the name tape. She did it with 2 small back stitches like anchors. She didn't say anything. She just did the work. We paid, said thank you, and carried the weight home. We don't open the binder every week. We don't light candles at it. We also don't bury it under school photos and tax folders. It lives where you can see it when you need to. That seems right. Sometimes I catch myself narrating Dad to myself, the way people do when the person they learned from isn't in the room. Tighten that, I hear. Or, don't over-tighten that. Or, back up your backup. I haven't argued with those ghosts in a long time. They usually win, and I usually need winning by that particular voice. If you stood in our kitchen today, you'd think normal. A pot holder with a burn mark. A fridge magnet shaped like a cardinal. A calendar with ordinary squares. You'd miss the line if you weren't looking. That's the goal. Lines work best when they function like walls you don't run into, because they're where they belong. Families break and mend and break again. I won't pretend we've invented a way to stop that. We just made our particular breaks less jagged. We put cloth around the edges where we could, and when it came time to keep the one thing that was not negotiable, dignity, we chose the unshowy effort of procedure. People don't write songs about procedure. They write obituaries with the space notches where procedure held. I took the dog for a walk at dusk and passed a house where someone had left a box labeled free by the sidewalk. Inside, 2 sweatshirts, a chipped bowl, a stack of magazines with recipes for tuna casseroles. A little boy kicked a rock across the street and declared victory when it skittered into a gutter. A teen practiced trumpet from an upstairs window and missed most of the notes but not the shape of the melody. The streetlights clicked on. The first one hums before it shines. I stood under it and listened to the pre-light. It's a good sound if you've learned to hear it. When I got home, I opened the closet just to make sure I still could. I looked at the jacket for the length of one inhale. I closed the door gently and walked away. Quiet, not as absence but as choice, followed me down the hall. This is not a story about heroes. It's a story about adults who decided to be boring in the right direction long enough for the important part to sit upright again. We didn't win a battle. We kept what keeps us warm. We wrote down what we were willing to say twice. We listened for the code in a pin chain tapping glass and said yes when it meant hold. Ooh, if you need the table image, take it. A wood surface with 2 water rings and 1 shallow dent where a heavy bowl fell one Thanksgiving. 4 chairs, a binder, a fern, a magnet on a fridge, a calendar with Saturday coffee written in ink that will outlast the page. The jacket in the hall, a sliver of navy if you stand at the sink and look left. That's the whole thing. That's enough. I'll leave you here, where the light is usable and the paperwork is filed and dinner is a question with a dozen acceptable answers. If you're standing at your own table with your own binder and your own line to paint, I see you. You don't have to be loud. You have to be clear. The signal you send gets received more often than you think. And if someone in the room says, it's just clothes, you have my permission to look at the cloth and then at the person who wore it and choose your answer. You already know what it is. Where are you watching from? Drop your city. I'm curious how this sounds in your kitchen tonight. Comment, I see you. If you've ever kept a folder for someone you love, those 3 words tell the rest of us we're not alone. Subscribe gently. It helps more quiet survivors find their line and keep what keeps them warm.